Last year, the FTC did over 2,000 individual investigations. In addition to the 43 filed complaints in court, the 2 enforcement actions, the 22 civil and criminal actions, and the 19 administrative actions. So if you think the FTC is not being active, you're fooling yourself.
You guys need to really start listening. You are not serving your communities well. Some of you are point blank lying to your communities, and you're even being asked about things that Greg and I are saying here, and you are in return lying to the community.
One of the things that stuck out to me the most was they've increased the number of people that work for the commission. They're up to 1,300.
Welcome back to Don't Say That, and ladies and gentlemen, there's a new FTC in town. All right, I know Greg's like chomping at bits. It's not new. They've been around for a while, but they just got a bunch of power given to them by the Supreme Court very, very recently, and probably going to start seeing a lot more regulatory action from them. They are not the FTC, but they are probably still someone to be very worried about. I'm going to be asking Greg today about how similar they are, if the rules are similar, how the hell do we avoid that? Because I'm telling you, I don't want to deal with any more regulators at all. Like that is not a part of my life I ever want to revisit. That, plus the FTC released their 2023 achievements, or their summary report of what they did in 2023. And it's a doozy. I didn't read the whole thing because I just can't understand that legal mumbo jumbo. But thankfully, our attorney, Mr. Greg Christiansen, did. And he's going to brief us because there's one stat in there that got me to almost fall off my chair. And it proves what we've been saying, that they are getting far, 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 far more, I don't want to say aggressive, but productive would be the right word. So without further ado, help us welcome back to our podcast, as always, our very own attorney, Mr. Greg Christiansen. Greg, what's up, man? How you doing?
Hey, good on it. I look forward to seeing you next week.
Yeah, Greg's going to be in the studio next week. We're going to film a bunch of stuff together, and we're going to spend a lot of time talking legal stuff because I am not just out here preaching it, I'm practicing it. Every so many months, I'm going to make sure I get in front of him and cross my T's and dot my I's. And I actually only know of one maybe other client, Greg, that's that consistent with you on a regular basis, because I know I always hear about you being at their office. But like, guys, you got to take this stuff seriously. By the way, the book, thank you to all of you that have purchased and supported. It's doing awesome. We've been running ads for it. It's killing it. If you have the book, you should have started receiving them now. They're out there. Please take a selfie picture and send us on Facebook. Tag me, all right? And we'll grab that and then send you a release and then use it on our page. It's doing great. We also released our Compliant Marketing Academy. It's so funny because we didn't have. Oh, there you go. He got his too. So. The Compliant Marketing Academy is out. If you don't know what that is, there should be a link in the description. It'll take you to the webinar replay, which is about a 2.5-hour masterclass we did. The last hour of it, we talk about our Compliant Marketing Academy. It did awesome. We're so grateful to all of you who joined, and Greg and I have big plans for that. So the next 3-4 months, it's still in beta. You can join, but we're putting the pieces together. There's a lot of construction signs inside, and we're getting this up, and it's going to be awesome. So as you can see us as marketers also building a funnel. We got the book funnel, we got our academy, and then we have our software that'll also be out here in the next few weeks. So all said and done, we're marketing compliantly. We're doing good stuff, picking a niche, picking a topic, but that's not what this is about. So links below, click, buy, please, thank you, support. Greg, what the heck is this new organization that I call FTC 2.0? Who is it? What are they? What should we be worried about?
This new organization that's been around.
This new. I say new because I had never heard of them before, but yeah. I heard of them today.
So when Obama was in office, the U.S. Congress enacted a law and established the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. And so the CFPB is the acronym. I always have to be careful. They are responsible in making sure that marketing offers and online offers regarding financial data is both transparent and is viable to the consumer so they understand exactly what they're buying. So if you're out there and you're selling training and coursework on, investing in stock market, for example, or cryptocurrency or insurance products, or, something that's out there, they want to make sure that advertising is fair, transparent, and competitive. So it's not creating a monopoly on what you're doing. So the reason this is big is because today the U.S. Supreme Court came out and said that the way that organization has been funded by the government is constitutional. 7-2 was the ruling on that. Now, why is that important? Because there's been some hesitancy to be really aggressive with that organization until they could show that the way that it's set up is constitutional and they can go forward. So my guess is now, with a very definitive yes, there may be other challenges as to what that organization does and how they go after companies that are marketing those financial products. But it's very clear to me that the green light is on, and that you're going to have, just like you have the Securities and Exchange Commission, the Federal Communications Commission, the Federal Trade Commission, this Consumer Financial Protection Bureau is going to get more and more active. So
Is this more for like, it's not, I guess it's more for like financial trading type of companies. What is financial, yeah, who's a prime target for them?
Could be anybody. It could be you teaching about real estate and how to go out into real estate. It
Okay.
could be you saying, here, learn how to do cryptocurrency, get into this insurance, go and do this.
So how are they different then from the Federal Trade Commission? What do they do differently? What do they have oversight on differently? Like, why do we need two of them, I guess is my question.
Right. That's kind of one of the big challenges that's happened with it lately, is why do we have to have two of these organizations? Aren't they competing? The
Mm.
FTC will go and say, well, really, if you look at our mandate, it's deceptive and unfair trade practices, right? That's what Section 5 is, deceptive and unfair trade practices. So this CFPB is specific to the promotion of knowledge, training, and in addition to that, products and services that have a financial component to it. Because otherwise you'd say, well, why have this when you've got the Securities and Exchange Commission that handles, the trade of securities? But unfortunately, with the way the laws work, there are gaps. There are gaps in the law, and sometimes it doesn't always fit into one group, right? I mean, that's
Right.
why in a lot of cases you'll have the Department of Justice will bring an action with the SEC or the FTC or the FCC, because there are gaps within the law. And they tried to, I think that the government, and I'm guessing why they decided to have a whole different branch, not just put all this authority under the FTC, but they realize that when it comes to the promotion of financial products and services and instruments, that sometimes they're not always securities, but sometimes they don't meet that strict requirement of Section 5 of the FTC Act of deceptive or false, but they're still a component of deception that's out there. That's not fairness, right? The fairness issue
Mm.
is not really part of Section 5. It's false or deceptive. It's not whether it's fair or not. So
Mm.
fair, transparent, and competitive. Because if you've got, this is where it comes in. You and I talk about this all the time. Well, how can this organization go out there and say X, Y, and Z, and this other organization doesn't do that? It's not fair. It's not competitive. So they can look at it from a perspective as in the market as a whole, or they can look at it as the individual company and the way it's doing it. But irregardless, what we're looking at is the promotion of another regulatory body that we need to be concerned about as we go forward. And if you'd never heard of it before we started talking about it today, I'm sure there's many people that have never heard about the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. But now with the U.S. Supreme Court making this ruling, can't ignore it. If you're in those industries, and that we do topic centric sometimes, like we're talking to those people who are doing these type of financial education
Mm.
products. That's not everybody that listens to our podcast, but if you're in those, you got to be aware of what the rules are. Can apply to
So
merchant
Greg, then,
processing, can apply to a lot of that. So
so before we move on, I want to talk, because I do want to hear the summarization of some of the 2023 highlights of the FTC's release that they did. What do they call it, by the way? What is that release called? They do an annual report? Is that what it's called?
yeah, it's called
Okay.
the U.S. Federal Trade Commission Annual Report, and they'll do it
Okay.
for
So their
fiscal
annual report, we're going to
years.
summarize that in a second. But Greg, does our book then, does that mean that there needs to be another book that protects against the Consumer Financial Protection Agency? Or is the concepts, or are the concepts that we're already covering, that if a company was to heed them and follow them, that would that end up by nature protecting them against also some of the rules provided by this other agency?
They overlap, just like the SEC and the FTC overlap all the time, right? So if I have a client that comes in and they have a stock education offer, and they're showing people how to identify and elect what stocks to enter into. I'm not looking at that just as an FTC component, and whether it's deceptive. I'm looking to see whether or not it violates the Securities and Exchange Act of 1933, the Investment Advisor Act of 34. And you guys got to all remember, my background before law school was I graduated in business finance. I was an investment advisor for Fidelity Investments before I went to law school. So I understand security regulatory work pretty decent. I've handled SEC cases as well. So sometimes you just have cases that overlap. Now, if you're in the payday loan industry, if you're out there in the insurance industry, you're in these other industries that are out there, and you're using predatory type of advertisements that could both violate the Federal Trade Commission and now the CFPB. Sorry, I always get the acronym wrong. If you got to make sure that you're in compliance with both, otherwise they can go after it.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. All right, so 2023, you mentioned we were just on a training for another marketers community, and you mentioned a number that really shocked me, and I was like, wait, did I hear that right? And it led to a pretty big realization. So do you want to summarize and share that number and summarize what you learned in the 2023 annual report?
Yesterday, and I sent it to Onik. That's why we started talking, because I follow the FTC. That's what I do. That's what I do. So, and it's funny because if Onik and I will talk, it's like, oh, this new case came out. How do you know that? Well, I follow the cases. I try to keep my. So yesterday, the FTC announced their annual report for the fiscal year of 2023. So yeah, here we are, May, and they're barely getting the report because once the year ends, then they go ahead and they do this. They start the summary. This is kind of like if you're running a publicly traded company at 10K, if you're familiar with that. Like, hey, let's look at all the wonderful things that we're doing for you, the people, and we're going to put this in a report and we're going to give it out to everything else. So I try to highlight certain things in this report every year that kind of stick out to me. And one of the things that stuck out to me the most was they've increased the number of people that work for the commission. They're up to 1,300. That doesn't sound like a lot, but I can tell you if you go back to past reports, I think only a couple years ago, I think they were about 700, 750.
Wow.
So they've almost doubled their staff in the last 2 years, 2 to 3 years. Now, part of that could be a whole bunch of different, elements, COVID, other things, but they have 1,300 approximately dedicated, what they call public services servants who work for the Federal Trade Commission. And then the report will go through, it talks about its mission, why it was set up, and all that boilerplate stuff. That's always standard in every year. But what's important to me is the type of cases they're looking at, the number of investigations they're looking at. So let me just go to a summary on page 3 of this report that's helpful. So in 2023, they filed 43 complaints in federal court. Of the 43 complaints they filed, now this was not Onyx case. This is not learned. This is going and filing lawsuits first. 39% of those, they got protective orders on. 39, wow. 39 out of 43, so not percent. 4 cases out of those, they didn't get protective orders on. That means when they bring an action in court and they target you and they bring the lawsuit, they're getting injunctive relief against those lawsuits. They recovered over $193 million last year.
So, Greg, can we pause real quick? Yeah. So 39 out of 43. I want to break that down. So, for example, let's just look at my case. Had I not settled, had I said, nope, we don't agree, time to go to court, you're saying that there was a 90% chance that they would have been able to freeze all my assets as that case began.
You had a good attorney, and I think we'd have a good shot. But yeah, if they had gone straight in on it and they had just gone and filed the lawsuit, if you look at their own stats.
Okay, sorry. So that's different. So that's not after negotiation and a CID. This is like straight out the gate. We're not even doing an investigation,
Yeah,
a CID. We're suing you from day one. In that situation, 90% of the time, they get a protective order right in the beginning.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, got it, got it,
So
got it.
what
Okay.
you're talking about is they also did several referred cases and investigations, and then your case would be and they also do administrative orders and everything. So if you look at it, it was $193 million in litigation cases, right? In federal court, which could partly include, actions like investigations as well.
Mhm.
Defendants were also required to pay over 7.3 in two civil contempt orders, which means those are prior cases where they did an enforcement action and they collected $7.3 million against those companies for violating a prior default settlement or judgment that they obtained against them before. In
Okay.
addition, they also did 22 cases with the Department of Justice, which means they're simultaneous civil and criminal, because the Department of Justice is the one that brings the criminal side, which means people potentially could go to jail under those cases. And those 22 cases resulted in $327 million in civil penalties. They issued 11 administrative complaints and 19 final administrative orders that required payments for $325 million. And then they reviewed 370 matters, including 2,000 investigations of defendants. So you'll know this and you'll understand this, but everybody won't get that. They'll think, oh, Greg, you're only saying 370 matters. No. When you have an investigation, they look at every party that's part of that investigation. They get their own individual CID, which ends up being an own individual investigation against them. So when we did the investigation for Learn, it wasn't just against Learn, but it was also against Sonic. Same thing in all the other investigations I looked. So what this is basically saying is that last year, the FTC did over 2,000 individual investigations. In addition to the 43 filed complaints in court, the 2 enforcement actions, the 22 civil and criminal actions, and the 19 administrative actions. So if you think the FTC is not being active, you're fooling yourself. This is the largest total number that they've done in the last several years. I haven't seen this much.
So how many cases did they settle? Because that number sounds low. I feel like when I look at their website, they're settling a case a day, honestly. So, but based on your
Of
numbers, it was
the
all.
370 matters they settled. 370
Oh,
matters.
okay, okay. So it was
Yeah.
370.
Yeah. I'm
And
saying
how is that compared
370
to?
matters collectively. They settled
Okay,
over 2,000 investigations, but a lot of those 2,000s were clumped into one thing, right? Like,
yeah,
um, I represented in a case that settled in December. I only represented one of the parties that was collectively put together in that settlement. That would have been one of the matters, but it was an
yeah.
individual. There were 3 individual investigations that I handled in that matter alone, and then it got clumped together. So 370 matters, which includes the settlements you're seeing, and then 2,000 individual investigations. So
So how is that compared to like that 370? Is that about average what they did the year before that? Is the 2000 higher? Like, do you know what the number was in 2022? Are they trending up? Because I actually haven't studied this data, but it's interesting. I just feel like just watching what they do on their website, I feel like, hey, they're picking up pace, but I haven't really quantified that data before.
yeah, so in 2022, the FTC only filed 33 complaints. So they only had 33 complaints. And
Versus 43.
so 10 less federal lawsuits
What
in.
about like that 375 number? Did they do more? Because I thought somewhere I saw that they had done 500 the year before that. But I don't know what number
You're
where I was
looking at the
picking.
individual investigations where they went up to 2,000. So sorry, I just pulled up the last year's
Yeah.
report so I could tell you the actual numbers. It's funny, last year's report's a different format, so it's a little bit different to look at on this, but so it's interesting. They do a pro forma on the reports that show what they're targeting for, and they talk about the number of cases that they want to bring and the number of baseline of actions and matrix. So they only did 2020, they only did 551 investigations. Okay.
Wow.
And so
So that's where I got the 500 number from. It's the 5.
Right.
So they 4x'd the number of investigations.
Yeah, they're more active now than they were before.
I'll say that's a very mild way. That's a 400% increase. Holy smokes. So
if you look at 2022, yeah, they just have targets. They don't put on the last year, they didn't put the exact numbers of investigations, but this year they actually did. So let's see here. Okay, here's the data for 2022, so we can do a comparison. So instead of 43 cases, 33. And the difference was they collected $162 million in redress versus this last year where they collected, I moved, dang it, 193. So almost $30 million more in collections from those cases alone. Then on top of it, defendants were required to pay. They did have one like monster contempt order in 2022. It was $102 million. My guess is that's kind of an Amazon-esque type company, one of the big boys, so it doesn't really apply to this. They got 11 court judgments imposing 1.62. Okay, that's part of the 33 complaints they filed.
I guess yeah. Let's go straight. They didn't put that number for investigations because I think that's probably the more number.
There.
All right, I'm getting lost in the data. It's too much numbers.
So this year, last year it was 300 matters. So 2022, 300 matters. 2023, 370 matters.
Right. So it's a 20%.
Yeah.
25% increase.
25% increase. That would be the raw data that I would look at.
Yeah.
So I would say that's the biggest difference between the two is the number of actions brought between those two. But in the administrative orders, they only did 12 in 2022. In 2023, they did 19. It was $325 million administrative actions versus in 2022, when they did those 11 or 14 administrative actions, it was only 5.6 million.
Wow.
Now, the reason that is, remember, AMG Capital Management, April of 2021, takes away 13B. Where have they pivoted? They pivoted in two main things. Section 19, specific allocation of actions against businesses. So they go after that. Where else? They've started bringing more administrative actions, and they've started successfully recovering under those administrative actions now. And so you're going to see those like the Intuit case, and which is TurboTax and all that. That's all of that is administrative action. So you're going to see more and more actions that are brought administrative. I mean, you can look at from 5.6 million in 2022 to 327 or 325 million in 2023. It's
crazy.
They are not being, they're going after it hard.
Yeah, I mean, but for 2022 again, like they don't have, because I think the big number that I'm thinking everyone should be focused on also is the number of investigations. I understand closed matters, penalties, fines. I'm just here saying you don't even want them knocking on your door. You don't want an investigation. And is that number up a lot? Or is it in ratio? So would it be up about 25% as much as?
I would say, because the one in 2022 doesn't give an exact number of the number of investigations.
Okay, got it. But
so it says nearing 2,000 investigations.
So if you just do the math, right, guys, I want you to understand something. This is my takeaway. 2,000 investigations divided by 365 days. So they're launching 5.5 investigations a day. And so my entire message to the industry and to the market is that you're playing cat and mouse with the organization. So many people, I mean, I'm seeing, look, I'm just going to have a message here. I'm looking at my phone for a reason, but I just have a message here for the larger marketers and the more prominent gurus in our space who are leading communities of tens of thousands of people. This is the first time ever I'm coming out and saying this. And I'm not saying this judgmentally whatsoever. I'm saying this from a place of heart and care. You guys need to really start listening. You are not serving your communities well. Some of you are point blank lying to your communities, and you're even being asked about things that Greg and I are saying here, and you are in return lying to the community. And that is concerning to me because I've been through it, and I'm telling you, there's no amount of money you're making right now that's worth it. And this entire, most marketers have this kind of adage, this thought process of like, I'm too small, or I'll just hide, or I'll just do this, or there's worse players, right? That whole saying, like, if you're being chased by a lion, like you and your friend are being chased by a lion, like how fast do you have to run? And it's like, just faster than my friend, right? It's just like, that's not really true because they don't work that way. So 2,000 investigations, 5.5 being launched a day. I'll leave it to you if you want to play chicken with the FTC or with any other organization. And now there's a new organization. So let's just say for a matter of sake, that new organization gets similar funding to the FTC. I don't know if they will. I have no idea who they are. I have to like go research them myself. But guys, there like that 2,000 becomes 3,000 or 4,000, and then there's other. It's just like rather than sit here and have to track all this data to think like what is the likelihood or chance of you getting hit, just follow the rules. It's made it much easier in my life, and I just much prefer it that way. Greg, is there anything else as we wrap up this episode? Guys, next week, you're getting this episode, right? And then Greg is on site. So the next few episodes, you guys are going to have a lot of fun because it's going to be Greg and I sitting at this table together. But Greg, is there anything else that's been going on? Has there been any new statements, sayings, thoughts, feelings, AI? Greg, I saw this. I want to ask you about this. This is crazy. This is a conversation going on amongst a group of people I love. Okay, there's a service. It's I'm not going to call the service out because I don't want to call them out, but it's a service that helps you create fake user-generated content. This is being sold. It's UGC. So what it does is it creates whatever message you tell it to say. It creates an AI video. It's a damn good video. Can't tell. That says the statement you want it to say. So for a minute, let's just say it's not a claim. It's not anything. It's just like, oh, I love this book. This book is great, and I really recommend you buy the book. They don't really say that they read the book, bought the book, but it's a fake video. It's a fake human. The person doesn't exist. That's got to be a problem, right?
Well, that's all the cases. That was the Google treasure chest case, right? Where they were using, they were grabbing people's pictures online and saying, look at this stay-at-home mom that is single and is struggling, and she came to us. Now she's making $7,800 a month doing these easy tricks.
So that's not allowed anyways because that's expressed in. I'm just saying, let's just say, I'm a fake AI, and I just say, this is an amazing book that can really help you become compliant with your marketing. I highly recommend you buy the book. There's no claim. But it's a fake video. It's a fake person. Is that, I don't know, that's not illegal?
I don't know if that's a problem because if it's authorized for the company to create it, right? If I find out you've AI'd me and that you're pushing this book no, I'm joking. I'm just saying.
No. Greg, you're not understanding. Hold on. That doesn't exist. It's not that I'm AIing you or a real person with permission. I'm saying this company
exists.
The person doesn't exist. It's literally a made-up AI video of a person that doesn't exist saying something. It's UGC, user-generated content, with AI users. Is that, I don't know, just feels like that's going to be a big hit.
Yeah, it just depends, right? Like if it creates a messaging that, because this goes back to maybe an endorsement or whatever, does that mean that this makes it look like it's a real person that's used the product and service and they don't even exist? So it just depends on the context of what's being set up. One of the arguments is going to be, hey, we're not endorsing, we're just saying promoting. What's the difference from hiring an actor to do this or having some CGI person do it? So on one hand, and the other hand, it's going to be, well, it looks like this person's happy with the product and service, and there's no indication that they're an actor or anything like that. This is a commercial. It looks like it's more of a, a testimonial. And in that
Yeah.
case, it's testimonial from somebody that doesn't even
That's
exist. So
that's
just,
how it's being used. I mean, I'm telling you right now, because user-generated content, it says create winning ads with AI actors, and and it shows actors using the product. So user-generated content is not random. It's supposed to be people expressing their
yeah,
their.
that's going to get hit. That's the Microsoft case. There's a big case right now where Microsoft's backpedaling because they were promoting their own reviews of certain products like the Xbox, and the FTC is like, no, can't do that. It makes it seem to the outside world as if these are endorsements. So if they're fake
All right.
AI, you're going to get hit by that.
Well, and I'm sitting here laughing because there's a company that's literally that's all they do, and I'm wondering how long before that software company has
Well,
to deal
AI
with
is one of the top 5 big things the FTC is looking at this year. I see it on
Yeah.
every time I turn around. It's
Yeah.
AI this, AI that. In fact, they had the AI conference that was in January or February of this year, just to talk about the transitioning of use of AI. Now, a lot of it was using people's images and likenesses without authorization, but the other is exactly what you're saying, creating it to make it seem like there are legions of people that buying products and services when there's not. It's baking
So
the
I
data.
hear what you're saying. So let's say I have a sales video and I create an AI person just as if I would hire a model or an actor to
Right,
come just
right,
present what is in this product. That's
right,
one thing. If I fill my page with AI pictures of people holding my product, I have now created a false net impression that there's
impression,
a lot of people who
correct,
use and love my product, and that's where it's
right,
wrong. So that's
right.
the division. Got it. All right. Okay.
Can you
Well,
imagine
with
if
that
you
said,
came to a webinar and you saw there were 5,000 people on it, and you think
yeah.
they're all clients and they're not, they're all AI, and you're the only
Yeah.
person on the webinar? You
Yeah.
feel duped, wouldn't you?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a problem. All right. With that said, everybody, Greg, what was the name again of that second agency that I think is new that is not new? C what? C
It's the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau,
Consumer Finance
CFPB. CFPB, Consumer Financial
CFPB.
Protection
You
Bureau.
know, they got shafted though. It's not 3 letters. It's 4.
No, they did not. They did
Oh,
not.
CFPB. All right. Well, everyone, CFPB. So let's look into that. But again, like Greg said, the rules are the rules. And if you follow what we're teaching you, it helps protect you against all of these agencies. Because in the end, what we're just helping you do is become more ethical, honest with your marketing. And that's exactly what these agencies want. And the 2023 report shows that even the existing agencies are picking up pace and doing more enforcement. And now we just have new agencies that are going to start. Well, they're not new. Existing agencies are going to pick up their pace as well. So unless you want to play a game of chicken, which I don't recommend you do, clean up your stuff, get the book, join our academy. Greg will be here next week. We'll film some podcast episodes together. Excited to do that, everyone. Thank you very much. Greg, thank you as always. As I always say, when life pushes you, stand straight, smile, push it the heck back. See you guys on the next episode. Bye.